Has anybody ever wanted to watch a YouTube video with me? Yeah. One guy's like, yeah, I do. Me. Yeah, okay. This is a video I just saw on YouTube. It's a Fox video being analyzed by NBC, not being analyzed by me. So it's a video instead of a video instead of a video. Turducken. This is an idiot NBC correspondent. I don't even know the guy's name. Maybe you could tell him his name. Talking about Justice Scalia wanting to revoke, Justice Scalia favoring gun control. Now, for those who don't remember, Justice Scalia wrote the opinion of Heller versus DC, and Justice Scalia outlined in his opinion, well, I read in parts of it here and there in some of my videos, Justice Scalia mentioned that gun violence is a problem, but it is held separate from a law-abiding citizen using a gun to defend himself. Well, those weren't his exact words, but that was what he was trying to imply. Justice Scalia also said that the total ban of handguns is unconstitutional. Now, let's just listen to this fool.
There is hope tonight in America. Hope for a better country through government. And it is more than just a ray of hope. It is the hope that we will someday, not soon, but someday, be able to rewrite gun and ammunition laws in this country to bring us a step closer to sanity and a step closer to what the Founding Fathers had in mind when they wrote the Second Amendment. And that hope comes...
Hold on a second. What the Founding Fathers had in mind when they wrote the Second Amendment. He's trying to imply that the Founding Fathers hoped that we would ban citizens. This guy's talking about banning the Second Amendment entirely. And he's trying to say, well, the Founding Fathers wanted us to ban private gun sales. That's what he's trying to say. Well, that's kind of like OJ saying I was trying to not kill Nicole by cutting her fucking head off.
This time not from Representative Carolyn McCarthy, one of the Congress's precious few untiring advocates of such sanity. It comes from a
Carolyn McCarthy, for those of you that don't know, is a congresswoman from Long Island, New York. Her son was injured, her husband was killed in that horrific train shooting in 1993. Carolyn McCarthy blames all gun owners for what happened to her husband and her son. I feel bad for her husband and her son. You know, I don't condone that stuff, but she treats all gun owners like a threat to society. It's very unfortunate too.
Our more important place than Congress when dealing with a constitutional issue. It comes from the United States Supreme Court, and even more importantly than that, it comes from the
Watch Scalia is talking to Chris what's his face?
Conservative majority, and most importantly, it comes from the most conservative justice, the dominant conservative thinker on the
Supreme Lawrence O'Donnell, this idiot is.
Right. Justice Antonin Scalia is now the beaming source of hope that government might someday do something to reduce the chances of you and your family being shot to death by a madman when you go to the movies in America.
Let's turn to an issue that is in the news right now with the massacre in Colorado, and that is gun control. You wrote in 2008 the opinion in District of Columbia.
Chris Cooper, this guy is.
The majority opinion that said the Second Amendment means what it says. People have a right to bear arms. Question: how far does that constitutional right go? Can a legislature ban semi-automatic weapons, or can it ban magazines that carry 100 rounds without violating an individual's constitutional right to bear arms?
What the opinion in Heller said is that it will have to be decided in future cases what limitations upon the right to keep and bear arms are permissible. Some undoubtedly are, because there were some that were acknowledged at the time. For example, there was a tort called affrighting, which if you carried around a really horrible weapon just to scare people, like a head axe or something, that was, I believe, a misdemeanor. So, yes, there are some limitations that can be imposed. What they are will depend on what the society understood were reasonable limitations at the time. There were certain location limitations where
But what about these technological limitations? Obviously, we're not now talking about a handgun or a musket. We're talking about a weapon that can fire 100 shots in a minute.
We'll see. I mean, obviously the amendment does not apply to arms that cannot be hand carried. It's to keep and bear, so it doesn't apply to cannons. But I suppose there are handheld rocket launchers that can bring down airplanes that will have to be it'll have to be decided. How do you decide that if you're a textualist?
Very carefully.
My starting point and probably my ending point will be what limitations are within the understood limitations that the society had at the time. They had some limitations on the nature of arms that could be borne. So we'll see what those limitations are as applied to modern weapons.
We'll see what those limitations are as applied to modern weapons. There's the most conservative Supreme Court justice saying we'll see what those limitations are, saying there can be more limitations on modern weapons. Who among us predicted last week that the most important thing said about gun and ammunition control in America after our most recent mass murder would be said on Fox News by the most conservative Supreme Court justice? With the 4 justices on the court appointed by Presidents Clinton and Obama now joined by Scalia on the basic principle of allowing restrictions on the Second Amendment, there is a majority on the court in favor of doing the right thing. And if Scalia is willing to do the...
All right, what Lawrence O'Donnell here is saying is now Scalia has joined the other 4 justices, Kagan, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Breyer, and who was the other guy? Souter? In deciding, okay, Scalia is now on the liberal side of the court with gun control, so now there's a chance that the Supreme Court or other courts might implement what he thinks is reasonable gun control. And that might mean the Second Amendment being revoked entirely for the citizenry.
Right thing, then others from the conservative side of the court will surely join him to form an overwhelming majority. When John McCain briefly strayed from the National Rifle Association party line after the Columbine massacre, the NRA attacked him in their magazine, calling him one of the premier flag carriers for the enemies of the Second Amendment. The NRA, of course, frightened John McCain back into the party line so that he could run for president and re-election to the Senate. So now it's Scalia's turn to be portrayed as an enemy of the Second Amendment. But the blood-drenched leaders of the NRA will not dare do that because they know they can't throw a re-election scare into a Supreme Court justice.
We have life tenure, and we have it precisely so that we will not be influenced by politics, by threats from anybody.
And so tonight, hope lives, thanks to, of all people, Mr. Justice Scalia.
Okay, hold on, let me see my comments. Okay, I commented, you can't see this. Look at this fucking communist TV anchor. He was saying reasonable restrictions might be imposed in future cases. He did not say you can stop a citizen from bearing arms. What a stupid ass motherfucker. Now, did that guy, yeah, see the reflection of the iPad. Did that guy give you the impression that Justice Scalia give you the impression that he wanted to revoke the Second Amendment entirely? Justice Scalia basically said, in my opinion, the courts will examine in the future what can and cannot be controlled, what can and what cannot be banned. Justice Scalia knows there are court cases left and right about gun control on all levels. Most justices do not want to comment on cases that are pending or might come up someday. Judges are very, very quiet about that stuff. But did Justice Scalia give you the impression he wanted to revoke the Second Amendment entirely? Did Justice Scalia give you the impression he wanted to ban all guns? Did Justice Scalia give you the impression he's going to just get in bed with the Brady campaign all of a sudden and stick his head between Sarah Brady's legs? I mean, did he give you that impression at all? You tell me. I mean, do you think, like, if you were a gun control advocate, would you get a boner from that? If you were a gun rights advocate, would you be scared by that? I mean, you tell me.